Bill Maher isn't on the left. He's not even close. He attacks anyone challenging wealth or power, frames basic reforms as radical socialism, and laughs while the system keeps grinding on. That's what liberalism looks like in 2026. He doesn't just argue against minor reforms. He fearmongers about them like they're a threat to capitalism itself, as if the solutions we need would destroy society. And the truth is, he knows these reforms are solutions, but he just wants to seem right. He wants to appear like the average guy, relatable and pragmatic, but he does it for rich guy reasons. 1. Maher attacks economic leftism while protecting capital. Take Zoran Mamdani. Maher called him a straight-up communist on Real Time with Bill Maher.
Democrats seem to be having this debate whether or not Mayor Mamdani is a socialist or a democratic socialist. Let me settle it. He's a straight-up communist.
Dismissing his policies as extreme and dangerous for electoral success, he even joked about moving out of Southern California to keep more of my money. That's not critique, that's defending privilege.
You know, I've looked at moving because I'd like to keep more of my money too, and
where should Maher move?
I'm not moving anywhere. I'm not moving anywhere.
No?
No.
You're going to stay?
And the taxes here are ridiculous, but it's still Southern California.
Right.
Okay.
Or Bernie Sanders. Maher attacks him the same way, pretending incremental reforms like raising taxes on billionaires are radical socialism, while leaving the system untouched in reality. The point? Maher frames the most basic, non-threatening reforms as socialist or communist, even when they aren't radical at all, while protecting the system that produces inequality in the first place. 2. Maher frames protesters as narcissists, not agents of change. Pro-Palestinian protesters? Privileged and narcissistic, Maher says.
There are injustices all over the world, but I'm going to be late for work. Something you protesters on the bridge seem to have the luxury of not having to worry about, which seems kind of privilegey.
Anti-war or anti-corporate activist, same deal. He doesn't engage with why people are fighting. He just frames dissent as a problem with tone or personality. He's like political correctness for rich people. Corporate correctness. Maher versus Islam, useful to the ruling class. Remember the debate with Ben Affleck and Sam Harris? Maher reduced Islam to a caricature. Affleck called it gross and racist, and he was correct. Maher treats billions of people as the problem, never touching imperialism, global politics, or economic structures. It's not just words, it's a habit. Maher's broad rhetoric about Islam feeds fear and anger at Muslims, framing them as collectively responsible for actions most people had nothing to do with. That fear is useful. It keeps attention away from the rich, the politicians, and the empire itself. Maher, whether he realizes it or not, is playing along. And let's be real, he definitely knows what he's doing.
I want to talk about, of course, is that you and I have been trying to make the case, I think, I have anyway, that liberals need to stand up for liberal principles. This is what I said on last week's show. Obviously, I got a lot of hate. These are liberal principles that liberals applaud for, but then when you say, in the Muslim world, this is what's lacking, then they get upset.
Yeah, we have been sold this meme of Islamophobia, where every criticism of the doctrine of Islam gets conflated with bigotry toward Muslims as people.
Right.
And that is, it's intellectually ridiculous. Even it gets.
So hold on, are you the person who understands the officially codified doctrine of Islam? You're the interpreter of that, so you can say, well, this is.
I'm actually well educated on this topic.
I'm asking you. So you're saying if I criticize you're saying that Islamophobia is not a real thing. That if you're critical of something,
well, it's not a real thing when we do it.
Right. Well, you're saying if I criticize you're saying that Islamophobia is not a real thing. That if you're critical of something,
well, it's not a real thing when we do it.
Right.
well, no,
it's real.
4. Social democrats are not a threat to capitalism. Here's where we get real. Social democrats like Zoran Mamdani or Bernie Sanders call themselves democratic socialists, but in reality, they're social democrats. Incremental reformers working inside capitalism. Their goal? improve material conditions, fund education, childcare, healthcare, make life a little easier. That's it. Even when workers fight for real change, the system pushes back. Take the 2022 rail worker strike. Workers were ready to walk out, fight for better pay and conditions. Congress stepped in to force a tentative agreement, blocking the strike. Sanders tried to add paid sick leave, but the amendment failed in the Senate. The strike was shut down, workers' power limited, and capitalism carried on exactly as always. Bernie Sanders voted for that legislation, and that, along with the fact that America lost half of its buying power in Biden's term, meant that the United States was officially beginning its fascist stage of development. Social Democrats can tweak the edges, but the rich still keep the keys. Maher, on the other hand, is just openly worried about how much taxes he pays. One pretends to care, the other doesn't even bother. Even Bernie, despite his good intentions, is limited by the system, and Maher, he laughs at reform while protecting wealth. 5. Maher's pattern attacks socialism while defending the rich. Maher attacks progressive policies like free education, childcare, or taxes on the wealthy, acting like they're radical leftist or communist fantasies.
But if liberals deny it, like he's just going through a goth phase, they're going to lose more elections. This is not a communist country.
Meanwhile, he openly celebrates keeping more of his money. He complains about social democracy, yet he's happy to defend billionaires and corporate power. He fearmongers about solutions like daycare, healthcare, or pre-K as if they're overthrowing capitalism itself, because he knows that they're real solutions to real problems. And he does it with this smug air, wanting everyone to think he's clever, relatable, and the average guy, while every word serves his class interests and the ruling class and the hegemony of the ruling class itself. Liberalism, even at its best, cannot solve capitalism's crises. You can tax the rich a little, fund pre-K, or tweak welfare, but you cannot tax capitalism away, and you cannot reform away the contradictions that drive inequality, exploitation, and imperialist war. Maher knows this, he doesn't care, and neither do most liberals. In fact, they give way to it every single time.
The Middle East is safer than it has been in 20 years.
Absolutely.
Hamas is on its knees, Hezbollah is on its knees.
I gave him credit for that,
Iran
yes.
no longer looks invincible. And you know who is applauding us every step of the way? Not out loud, but the Arab countries.
Look,
every one of them.
If Venezuela causes Cuba to fall, if he somehow gets Venezuela, Cuba, and Iran all to be not these horrible places they were, he should get a Nobel Peace Prize.
Their job is to fearmonger about the solutions as if they will not solve our problems, because it undermines their class interests. Social Democrats operate under the same umbrella of liberalism. They make life marginally better without touching the structure. Maher just skips the pretense and defends the rich for himself. The point is simple. Maher is not a leftist, he's a liberal, one who punches at reformists and jokes about taxes, while the system runs on autopilot. Social Democrats are slightly better, they try to improve conditions, but they also operate entirely within capitalism's limits. Likewise, within the settler colonial empire's limits. Liberalism, even when it looks progressive, cannot confront the contradictions of the system, and Maher is the perfect example of that. He entertains, he criticizes, he mocks the left, but the rich, the powerful, and the system itself, untouched. Thank you for listening. And if you're wondering about me, well,
Let me settle it. He's a straight-up communist.